Congratulations!
Why are you sitting on the ground? Oh, your fingers are glowing. Well, that's cute.
You know what happens to everybody at one time or the other. You walk in somewhere and you're like, I'm just, this is not for me anymore.
Yep.
Not for me.
I'm too old. I'm Kevin Pereira.
Morgan Webb. Candace is sick today, probably from blowing stuff up in Oklahoma.
True.
We are coming to you live from the G4 studios in Los Angeles.
Guess what, kids? On the old show today, Creed Bratton from The Office is going to join us live in studio to talk about his new dark comedy, Carrie. Doesn't sound that scary.
It doesn't. Sounds very pleasant.
Then it's Netbook versus Chromebook week on Gadgetron. We're going to kick things off with the Toshiba NB505 Netbook. Sexy name, I know, but relax. This thing is stuffed with a 250 gig hard drive. Yeah, you hear that, Chromebook? A hard drive. Just saying, it's got one in it.
NB505.
Right? Oh, the old NB505.
That is hot.
On every kid's Christmas list, if they could spell it out.
NB505. Plus, we present more tales from the console graveyard. Today, we're going to eulogize the Nintendo 64 and all of its cartridge-based polygonal glory. And the Supreme Court just handed down a major ruling about violent video games and free speech. It is good news for Duke Nukem.
Oh.
It's the first piece of good news that game has gotten. And bad news for censorship. Adam Sessler is going to be here, and he's going to explain why.
If they would have censored Duke Nukem, that would have really ruined that gaming experience.
Yeah. But first, let's peer into the scrying pool of the web.
Does that mean we're going around the net?
Yes, that's what that means.
Good.
It's like a scrying pool, and you use the thing, and you divine secrets, and it tells you like locations and stuff.
Can you get one at Costco?
Don't you watch Charmed?
What?
Never
No,
mind.
what is Charmed? Is that like 16 and Pregnant?
But with witches.
Because I do watch that. No, really, I watch 16 and Pregnant. What? Exactly. Today's number 5 around the net starts off with a guy standing on railroad tracks as an enormous train speeds toward him.
Okay, but since this is a number 5, I'm going to guess it doesn't really end well. Maybe a horrible death at the end, because that'd be awesome. Not a horrible death.
No.
But a beautiful example of the classic Roadrunner escape.
Yes.
Well played, my friend. Well played.
Note to our viewers, don't try that at home because you will die.
Yes. You will.
Just point it out.
Yeah. And at number 4 is some impressive found footage courtesy of a larcenous bird.
Yeah. Experience the terror of being kidnapped by a seagull from the victim's point of view. I make the exact same sounds when I'm being recorded by a night vision camera. It's true.
I think I don't ever need to see your sex tape.
Oh, we hadn't even gotten to the sex part yet in the video. I was just warming it up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, the Alka-Seltzer cam would solve that problem.
So, remember those glory days of February 2011? Charlie Sheen started saying crazy things on TV, and we all had just a fantastic time.
Yeah, I remember that. Do you guys also remember it was like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later, and
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen was still saying crazy things, but then it started to get all creepy and depressing. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, you should all just get ready to feel those feelings all over again, thanks to one crafty maker of masks.
Winning?
So creepy.
Really creepy. I'm glad I can finally replace my Hot Shots Part 2 mask, though, because that was getting a little dated, I'm not going to lie.
You were dressing up as Charlie Sheen
Yeah,
for
the mask,
Halloween?
Yeah, for Halloween. Because it was definitely not for my 2.5 Men themed sex dungeon. It was clearly for Halloween to go around and get candy with the kids and whatnot. It was a...
Good to know. I will make a note of that.
Thank you for the excuse.
To prevent injuries, mountain bikes should only be used to bike down mountains.
Yes, and even then, there's no guarantee.
Okay, ready when you are, buddy.
Rest in peace?
Yes.
What, you think they died from that?
Well, no, but the scent of their blood, I mean, obviously attracted some sodomizing, murderous hillbillies. It happens all the time.
So you think death by deliverance is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I think we can leave it at that then. We're good.
Well, also, there's a lot of bears in these forests, and bears actually are they have one of the most sensitive noses among all animals.
All right, we got it.
And they actually miles away the bears can come.
Still ahead, we're going to learn the secret to not letting your boobs hang out. Cleavage concealing tips are in our #1 ATM.
You know, they're not just attracted to the smell of blood, you know.
I got it. Sodomizing and then
they're also attracted to other smells.
Today's ATN featured a seagull's high-flying heist. He's got the camera. Now he's going to go viral. Tell us, what's the name of this bird's YouTube channel? Tweet us your responses at AOTS, #OMGROFLOL. If your response steals the show, we'll feature it on Friday's show.
Attack of the show favorite, Djibouti Dubs. He is back, ladies and gentlemen.
And this time he tackles the inane infomercial for the Cammie Secret.
What?
Being a slut's fun for everyone, but it can get pretty awkward at work.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to resend these memos. Sweet boobs.
Now, how about we try to keep this a little secret? A Cammie secret? Oh! Check those out. It attaches to your bra, covering up the goods, and you can adjust it as high as you want or as low as you want, so you can be as slutty as you want. You just put that on, and before you know it, you go from wearing a sexy red dress to a granny red dress. Notice how much you want to motorboat the one on the left compared to the one on the right. And for all you fatties out there, don't worry, keep the cheeseburgers coming, because one size fits all.
All right. Congratulations, Cammie Secret. Your product manages to ruin boobs.
Also, as a lady, I can speak from experience on this. I should note a much easier solution that doesn't require mail ordering is wearing a shirt. Just wear a shirt, like a whole shirt.
As a man, let me know that's a terrible idea. Don't listen to Morgan Webb on that.
Your mail order product, the Wiener Snuggler, was a terrible idea.
No, I'm sorry. The Snuggler, which by the way was a fleece, it's a genital concealing sleeve. It retailed for a very reasonable $99.99, and to me, that's a bargain.
Every single person who wore it got arrested. Every single one.
Yeah. And it also came in tiger print. Thank you. See any tan lines there? No.
It's like a little tiger tail.
You've been fleeced. It's like Tanuki Sessler. As you may have heard, today the Supreme Court struck down a California law that prevented minors from buying or renting violent video games.
Yes, the decision is being hailed as a great victory for the gaming industry, and we actually have a guest joining us right now. Joining us via Xbox Live is Mikey Delancey, president of the McGee Middle School Gaming Club.
Mikey, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
You!
So, Mikey, so I don't know if you hear. Mikey,
I got that.
Do you think this decision will finally put an end to critics who claim that violent video games actually make for violent children?
Shut the f*** up, you
Okay. Mike.
I think he has a point. Well, how do you read into Justice Thomas's dissent?
Are you playing games? You're supposed to be cleaning!
Mikey?
Shut the fuck up, Mom! I'm on TV!
Okay, Mikey.
You won't lie to me. I can hear you cussing
think-
your friends! They're not
Mikey,
my friends!
Mikey, thank you very much. I think that's all the time we have.
It sure is.
Twitter, Pereira.
Okay.
You dumb bird!
It's just like being online.
Yeah, Gadget Prawn, just do it, please. Thanks.
Toshiba knows the phrase best bang for your buck quite well, so it makes sense that they're the ones who make the NB505 netbook. With a gig of RAM, an Intel Atom processor, and a 250 gig hard drive, it's ready for anything on the web. It weighs just under 3 pounds, so you won't have to worry about lugging it around. There's even a built-in webcam and memory card reader, all for $270.
Oh, the sexy NB505.
Oh, yeah. That just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. It actually is pretty thin and light for a netbook.
Yeah, it is. Most people would look at this and think, from the outside, I think it looks kind of cheap. Like
Right.
you see it, you think plastic. You pick it up, it does have some heft. I don't think it feels cheap in the hands, though.
No, and I've definitely felt and owned, I have to admit, some really cheap feeling and cheap looking netbooks. So this actually, it looks pretty
This
solid.
isn't one of them. This is one you
Yeah.
could probably toss around quite a bit before it snaps in 40 pieces.
Right, okay, so now, one of the main problems with these netbooks is you get them and you realize when they say not a full keyboard, they actually mean you're sitting there typing with these tiny little mouse paws.
Right, yeah, you get ASDF and then you have to extend the keyboard out for the rest of it.
So how is this and the keyboard and the usability?
Not a problem at all, actually. The keyboard is large. It's really easy to type on. You don't have to really get used to it. Some of these netbooks have a learning curve because the keys are so cramped, or they reposition
Right.
some of the features. The touchpad is also big enough to use with no problems. It even has pinch and zoom. Hello. So watch out, because it's there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Love pinching and zooming. Of
course.
I always forget I have that feature, and
I know,
I
me too.
never, ever use it.
Yeah, you use it to show off once to your friends. Hey, look, the web browser text's getting larger. That's convenient.
Yeah, I can also use Shift and Plus, but
Precisely.
whatever. Okay, so boot time is a problem with these things usually. So
Yeah.
how fast is the boot time?
It's average for a netbook, just
Okay.
about average. It takes a little over a minute to get fully booted up
Right.
and into a web browser. Obviously, not as fast as a solid-state drive. Any Chromebook or a MacBook Air, those take like 15 to 25 seconds.
However, those solid-state drives add a lot of price.
They definitely do. And this
Right.
thing, when we'll get to the price later, this thing a little on the cheap side, so that's good.
Right.
And with this kind of thing, you can put it to sleep. Just close the clamshell. Don't power it all the way down. That way, the next time you turn it on, it's a little faster.
And they actually tend not to use that much power, too, so you don't always have to have it roped into your plug. It has a standard Intel Atom processor. It's the same one that all of the other netbooks have. Every netbook I've ever seen has it. I always want the best processor, and it's so frustrating when they all have the exact
Nope.
same one.
You got the same one as
Yeah.
everybody else on this one. But the shell is blue.
Yeah. So it only has 1 gig of RAM. So
That's the problem there.
Yeah, there you
1
go.
gig of RAM, you're definitely going to see a performance hit,
Right.
and there's no way around that. We ran our normal PC Mark Vantage productivity benchmarks.
Another sexy
Which-
term.
Yeah, it's a border collie and a shot of the bay. I don't know why that's what it is. This, by the way, is a video. It's not a slideshow, and there is an indication of how this netbook performs.
Right, and that's really frustrating because what do you use a netbook for? You want to use it for email, and you want to use it to watch YouTube videos.
Right, streaming videos of the Enchanted Forest, not slideshows of it.
That's what I watch.
And the same goes, again, to that point, if you're trying to watch streaming HD video off the web,
Yeah.
it is choppy. And there's no
Right.
way around that. Browsing the web is what most people use the netbook for, as you said, and that is unfortunately not going to be the greatest experience on this thing. And we really think the RAM is a hugely limiting factor here.
And it's unfortunate that you can't get more RAM. Like, there's not a model offered with more RAM. 'cause
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean,
feel
you
like
could, but at that point, you're going to violate the price point, which is
Right.
what makes this thing
Okay.
attractive in the first place.
Well, then we should get to the price point.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
It is only. I'll give my Vanna hands.
I know I was going to karate chop the price or something. Like, all right, let's go. I'll fight that price.
$270 on Walmart.com, which is pretty cheap for a netbook, I have to say.
It is, and if all you're going to do is run WordPad and play Minesweeper, great, get it. For everything else, we think it's a 3 out of 5. I mean,
Yes.
we like the design, we like the interface, but again, the performance is only average.
That is it for today's Gadget Prawn. But on Wednesday, we're actually going to review the Samsung Chromebook.
Yes, so sweet by any other name. It's got a 16 gig solid state drive. It's actually powered by Google's Chrome OS, but some people think it'll be useless without a web connection.
Is it?
I don't know, we haven't seen it yet.
Oh, all right. still ahead. Test tube meats will be on menus soon. I'm going to have all the details in the feed.
Delicious.
And we're going to delve into the Supreme Court's video game decision.
Yeah, more on that. And later, everybody, Creed will be here.
Their music is awful.
Creed from The Office.
Yay!
Yeah. He's here live in just a bit. Stick around. I have lots to ask, including, should you wear your shirt toes?
Here's a question for you. Would you live on a diet of only insects for free cable and internet for life? You logged on to G4TV.com and told us what you thought. We'll have the results after the break.
Now we'll try a Kool-Aid funnel cake.
Is that supposed to happen?
That's what's supposed to happen on top, not on the bottom.
Oh.
And then you make a big mess.
Don't worry, the interns will clean it up.
The results are in, and about 72% of you said you would not live on a diet of only insects for free cable and internet for life. Log on to G4TV.com for more questions like this and tell us just how far you'd go.
Old gaming consoles never die.
Literally. They're made of plastic,
Yeah.
so it takes like thousands upon thousands of years for them to decompose.
It's the Nintendo 64's turn in today's Tales from the Console Graveyard.
By 1996, sales of consoles were at an all-time high. The 32-bit Sega Saturn and Sony PlayStation were pushing the CD format. Atari was making one last effort with the Jaguar, and Nintendo would release their new console, the Nintendo 64. Codenamed Ultra 64, this was the world's first true 64-bit gaming console, and one of the first systems to offer 3D gaming.
The Sega Saturn has come out and has kind of been bungled in terms of its marketing. And obviously the PlayStation is already out. And here comes the Nintendo 64. And it's really offering something on these 3D graphics, these polygons, this sense of explorable world.
The N64 sold for $200, was packed with a 32-bit graphics chip, 4 megs of RAM, and ran on a 64-bit processor, making it the most powerful console of its day. It was also boxed with a single controller, which drew a lot of attention due to its odd shape, buttons, and expansion slot for a memory card and rumble pack.
That was an awkward joystick. But with that said, it gave us the analog stick, and that is now a mainstay of any console controller.
The N64 would sell 500,000 units in its first 4 months and launch with 2 games, Pilotwings 64 and the 3D version of everyone's favorite mustachioed plumber, hello, Super Mario 64.
Mario 64 for me is probably one of, if not my favorite console game of all time.
It was revolutionary. You had a camera that never worked quite right, and it was incredibly frustrating. But at the time, it was a miracle of modern invention.
Here we go! Game cartridges were ROM-based and could hold up to 512 megabits of memory. However, Nintendo would be the last major console to produce games in the cartridge format.
The cartridge format was very, very expensive. The disc format was very, very cheap. This was one of those big moments when Nintendo started to lose that affinity of the third parties.
This choice eventually led to many companies like Squaresoft leaving Nintendo to produce games like Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation. In spite of this, several games would become huge hits for the system, including the first-person shooter GoldenEye.
If you were in college or even high school during that time and you didn't play GoldenEye, you unfortunately didn't have hands, and life must be really tough for you now.
For the longest time, you thought first-person shooter, mouse and keyboard, but really GoldenEye made it palatable and made it entertaining.
The classic brawler Super Smash Bros. And The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is considered by most critics to be the best game of all time.
Something as simple as the Z-Trigger lock and lock just once again changed how you're going to be building and designing games inside of a 3D space, and how that was copied almost instantaneously from every other game that followed.
Of course, it did have its share of missteps, namely Superman 64, in which the Man of Steel would fly through rings in a virtual world.
Superman 64 deserves every bad thing ever said about it. It was unplayable.
There's no time to waste.
I actually think it's one of the most important games of this console generation cycle because it showed people how to make a game in the worst way possible.
Your fate will be sealed, Superman.
Over the next few years, Nintendo released several color schemes of the console and sold about 33 million units worldwide. But by 2002, the console was discontinued as Nintendo would finally give into the CD format with the GameCube. While the Nintendo 64 would push several innovations, ranging from the analog stick to 3D gaming, Nintendo ultimately lost its foothold on the market to the PlayStation.
The N64 should be remembered for being a very, very solid system that was rather maligned at the time, but it was just a wonderful moment where there was a little bit of experimentation and that Nintendo perfection coming out on that system.
Pour one out for big head mode on GoldenEye.
Or we could just get some news up in here from me, Morgan Webb. I gotta go. I like how it says run over and I'm strolling very
you're
slowly.
Good. You're at a news pace.
It's time to start the feed.
All the news you need to know.
It's Monday, June 27th, and here are your top stories. Your iPhone is about to get a lot more outdated. There might be 3 new models coming in within the next year alone. I know, sorry guys. Analysts say that Apple is starting production on 2 new iPhones in August, a prepaid iPhone 4S and a beefed up iPhone 5. Information on exact specs is iffy, but both are expected to hit shelves by the end of September. In addition, reports also hint at a super fast iPhone 6 starting production early next year. So you may as well start saving your pennies now. Sorry guys. Everyone knows that refrigerators suck a lot of power, but apparently not as much as your cable box. A recent study found that the energy consumption of the average home cable setup, like an HD box with a DVR, is about 446 kilowatt hours a year, while the average fridge only chews up just over 400 kilowatts. To make things worse, the cable boxes actually hog the same amount of electricity even when they're powered down. But personally, I think it's worth dropping the extra dough on your electric bill. I mean, how else would you get to see all these beautiful faces, right? No? All right, hungry? You won't be for long. The world's first test tube burger is on the way. Yum! Dutch scientists say they are less than a year away from finishing in vitro burger meat. The fake beef is made by taking thousands of stem cells from cattle and letting them sit in a lab and multiply billions of times over. The result? Minced, muscled fibers that sort of resemble actual beef. If that sounds like your kind of thing, you are in luck because they are looking for volunteer taste testers. Something tells me they won't have trouble finding someone here in the States. And finally, gamers rejoice. Earlier today, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down California's plan to restrict the sales of violent video games. The proposal would have allowed California to ban the sale of violent video games to minors and could have set a dangerous precedent for the gaming industry as a whole. The High Court voted overwhelmingly against the ban, citing the same First Amendment protections that apply to movies and books. The ruling means that the industry will be allowed to continue to police itself with its established rating system. But we're going to hear more on the good news from Adam Sessler in just a moment. With that, I am Morgan Webb, and you have just been fed. And for more on that Supreme Court story, let's go to Kevin and Adam.
Thanks, Morgan. Yes, now buying a violent video game isn't just fun, it's actually a right. So please welcome back X-Play's Adam Sessler, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, so today's Supreme Court ruling, this was a huge win for gamers, a huge win for free speech. How did that happen? Because gamers never win anything in the courts.
Yeah, and reason seems to be in short supply these days as well. It is quite surprising. The 7-2 ruling was written by Antonin Scalia, one of the most conservative members of the Supreme Court, and it's a very, very strongly worded argument. I must say, it's actually fun to read. It's not filled with legal gobbledygook, and I encourage everyone to go out there and check it out. He really says that, look, this is protected speech. You're abridging a First Amendment right and access to that. And it didn't meet something called strict scrutiny, where they have to prove that there's a compelling state interest. In this case, it was supposed to be that, minors might be harmed by playing violent video games.
They were referencing these studies that say, violent video games lead to violent children, but that's not really what those studies say, right?
No, and he actually really punctures these holes in them. It says, look, you didn't really show it. You didn't show that there's any imminent danger. He actually, in some very funny elements, really made fun of these studies for how they really had to go through these contortions to make a claim that these kids were being damaged. And because of that, the state really had no interest, and that the law itself was so broad that it really could be applied to anything, and it was quite dangerous.
Did he cite the Konami Code anywhere in there? Because that'd be just...
No, but he did use Dante's Inferno, the book, and Mortal Kombat in one sentence.
Really?
Yes, he talks about choose your own adventure books. It's almost like this litany of pop culture of the 20th century coming from Justice Scalia.
Well, who were the dissenters? Like, what were their opinions on the actual bill?
So the two proper dissenters were Justice Thomas, who wrote one of the strangest things I've ever written, where he's trying to say that the way that children were regarded and treated when the framers wrote the Constitution should apply here. It's really weird. The other was Justice Breyer, one of the most liberal voices on the court, who really just seems to be convinced himself that there is some merit to these studies and there is some harm for kids, though it's rather wishy-washy. And he says he doesn't know if the science is real, but it seems to be almost kind of like his guts telling him that, really,
something tells me these
this.
are bad, so let's keep them out of the kids' hands.
What's important is that Justice Alito and Roberts, they did go with the majority, but they wrote a concurring opinion. So what they said is they agree that the law as written is bad, but they think there is some validity to trying to have a law that could restrict the sales.
So that leads me to the last question, which I think is the big one. Is this going to rear its ugly head again and a little bit with a better written law, or is this done?
It is so damning what Scalia wrote. It would be very hard to figure out how you could write a law that could service what he points out. I wouldn't be surprised if some state legislatures can get some political hay, and they're going to have one of these laws. The likelihood it'll make it to the Supreme Court because of the precedent set by this ruling is almost nil. So what I can say is the laws are out there, but they're not scary anymore.
So hooray for gamers, then?
Big hooray for gamers.
Hooray for gamers! That's always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by, good sir. Let's go over to Miss Morgan Webb.
Hooray for gamers!
Yeah! Hooray! We just hoorayed. We just hoorayed. I'm sorry.
If you're sick of motion gaming, you are really going to hate the new Japanese game from Sega. It makes you pee on it. Seriously, what's up with the world?
While most of the gaming world seems to be headed towards hands-free gaming, one of the oldest companies is taking a more hands-on approach. Our first stop takes us to Japan for the 2011 Digital Signage Show. Sega may have lost the console wars, but they recently made headlines with their newest game system, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen. Aptly named Toilet, it attaches to your actual toilet, and games are played while you pee. The system includes a speed sensor to measure the velocity of your urine and an LCD screen to provide an interface. Gameplay then advances depending upon how quickly you can relieve yourself. The total volume of your urine can be determined based on your speed and the duration of time using the toilet. Players can then find their average amount and post their individual high scores, which other players can compete against when they use the urinal. We're not sure how successful the system will be when it's released in November, but we can say that Sega's future in gaming is in the toilet. Literally. Next up, we're headed to Brazil for news on a world record-breaking feat. 6,000 volunteers recently gathered in Sao Paulo to take their love of Legos to new heights by building the world's largest Lego tower. Built mostly by children, the structure stands a staggering 102 feet and 3 inches tall, breaking the previous world record held by Chile by just 10 inches. It took almost 500,000 Lego pieces to complete it, most of which were supplied by Lego themselves. The tower was built over the course of 4 days, and a construction crane was enlisted to help finish the job. Let's just hope that the winds don't pick up in Brazil anytime soon. And finally, our last report takes us to Germany for the world's toughest and smartest sport, chess boxing. The rules are simple. Contestants participate in a 4-minute battle of chess, followed by a 3-minute bout of boxing, alternating for 11 rounds until a winner is determined. Champs are crowned by either knocking their opponents out or by achieving a checkmate. Chess boxing was invented a few years ago in Western Europe, but now it's finally ready for a shot at the mainstream. In fact, it's become so popular that this past weekend, teams from London and Berlin faced off in Germany for European chess boxing supremacy, with London coming out victorious. While it's unlikely to replace other mainstream fighting sports, chess boxing has begun to gain traction in the U.S., with gyms popping up in cities like L.A. and New York. So whether it's urine-based gaming, oversized Lego towers, or chess-playing pugilists, you gotta wonder, what's up with the world?
Yes, yay, but guys, guys, sorry, a bit of bad news. Sadly, the world's largest Lego tower was accidentally stepped on by the world's largest mother.
It's the circle of life. What can you do?
Tragic.
All right, guys, we have an email address.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you guys figured out what it was.
Yeah. Our first email is from AOTS fan Will F.
Yes, his email reads, "The cold rush of air hit my face. One slice of Oscar Mayer bologna looked back at me. I went to get it. He was silent while I placed him between 2 slices of whole wheat bread. I went to take a bite, but I couldn't. The bologna had been staring at me the whole time. So I gave him $20 and I need a new PC." Well,
That was beautiful. It was like an early James Joyce.
yeah, if James Joyce drank a lot of Four Loko, yes.
Yeah.
But for that email, we are going to give you a brand new... No, we're not.
We got nothing. What do we got?
I was going to sell it really hard, and I was
We
like,
have
no, we're not.
off-brand water.
Yeah, I'll
We
give
could
you
send
a half-finished bottle of Sparklets.
We have a mouse pad. Sorry, got nothing.
Our second email is a question from an unknown emailer.
And he writes, "I masturbate to your shoe every day."
All right.
I like it.
Hey, quiet. Let him finish.
Oh, a little jig for him.
The one, too. Well,
Yeah.
my shoes are very flattered, so
Yes.
thank you so much for that, you pervert.
And finally, we received a very well-written message from our pal, Sir Helsing 420.
Yes, Helsing writes, "Dear AOTS, I created an alignment chart in Photoshop based on the show. I hope you guys enjoy it." For those who don't know, it's from Dungeons and Dragons, basically.
Yeah, it sort of categorizes your ethical and moral choices and perspectives and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm apparently neutral evil. I thought chaotic neutral, maybe, but there's no way our Twitter wall is true neutral. It's bipolar at best.
But I think that Candace is lawful good.
Oh yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
She's the sweetheart.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Sir Helsing.
Yes, if you want us to actually read your words on the television screen like we are now,
Yes.
email us at mayorofg4@g4tv.com. Take it to Victoria's Secret.
I guess we survived E3, barely.
Yeah.
But we survived. But now it is time for Comic-Con, and for the first time ever, both Attack and X-Play will broadcast live from San Diego.
Yes, G4 kicks off 3 consecutive days of live Comic-Con floor coverage on July 21st, and that all includes our 4-hour Comic-Con 2011 live special on Saturday.
Go to g4tv.com for more details, because that's what the internet is for.
Yeah.
More details.
More of those.
Stay tuned. Creed from The Office will join us in the studio right after this.
I will ask questions. He will have answers, because that is the way that interviews work around these parts. Someone arrest him.
Fail. You're dead. Major fail. Fail. Fail, 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 fail. You lose.
Recognize our next guest as the slightly creepy guy from The Office, but in his new movie he plays a slightly creepy guy with a twist.
We have mice in the attic. We have to do something about this. We have valuable documents up there.
Feeling better, Uncle James?
Up and down. I'm going to go to the market and get some traps and some cheddar. You can set the traps tonight before bedtime, okay?
I don't want to do that, Uncle James.
Well, if I set them, I'll forget to check.
Joining me now, Creed Bratton, everybody. Welcome to the program, good sir.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
So let's talk about Terry for a second here, because this seems completely different from the character that we're used to from The Office, from the Creed that we know there.
Totally different, yeah.
What's going on? Well, they're probably laughing because your character on The Office has 4 toes and is a kleptomaniac and has a body in the trunk.
Well, that's pretty true, actually. I do speak Chinese, and I do have 4 toes, and one of the toes, it was a clog dancing accident, and one of the
what?
Clog dancing accident, and one of the toes got crushed in Germany. But I have hairy feet, so it kind of grew over the hole, and it's yeah, so it's fine now.
So it looks like a hobbit hole now. There might be a.
It's kind of a hobbit hole.
Okay.
You know,
but the character in Terry, not like Creed from The Office.
Not at all. Not at all. No.
So what is this movie? I saw the trailer, and it immediately looks compelling, but I can't tell if it's going to make me cry or if it's going to try to warm my cold black heart.
Could do a little both.
Okay.
It's a coming of age story, and this guy, my nephew Terry, he is overweight, and he's an outsider in school, but he's still very resilient. He's got thick skin, and people tease him, but he's looking for a friend. And my character, I'm his uncle, who has an unspecified form of dementia.
Okay.
And but I'm lucid at times, and other times I'm not. So he has to basically take care of me. John C. Reilly is the principal who befriends him. And all I can say is this is a movie that you haven't seen done this way before.
Does he befriend the mice that were in the attic? Are there is this like a CG Disney thing, or?
I befriend the mice.
Oh, good.
Obviously, yeah. And then I kill them.
Oh.
No, we have a hawk that takes care of that. We bring in a hawk, trained hawk.
So it's a movie about a tender, loving story about an overweight kid in high school who learns to train a hawk to solve them.
The hawk just comes out of nowhere.
Oh, okay.
The hawk comes out of nowhere. The hawk is a B plot. It's a B story plot.
Love it.
But toward the end, I can't even tell you what happens at the end. I could, but I won't.
Right, you should. Well, we should see the movie and explore it.
You should see the movie. Actually,
listen for the hawk noise. When that happens, you know you're about 3/4 through the movie.
You know the movies are the good, bad, the that's that kind of thing.
You know it's coming.
Then you know it's coming. Yeah.
I love that. I didn't know you got your job in The Office because you were the token white guy on the Bernie Mac show.
I was a token white guy in the Bernie Mac.
I had no idea that was your history.
Well, I'm very proud of that fact.
Well, it's an interesting fact to say the least. But how did that get you from? How do you go from token white guy on Bernie Mac to The Office?
I'm working on the Bernie Mac show and doing background stuff, and I just started getting little bits. You know, I played Carl Reiner's nephew Miles, and I did I played a blues piano with Bernie, and he was sitting there, and it was kind of a bunch of cool stuff like that. Ken Kwapis comes on the show. He's a big Grassroots fan. By the way, I'd like to segue into this little bit right here before we go any further.
Oh, as the host, I was going to segue, but that's okay.
And present you, Kevin, with my new album called Bounce Back. Here.
Creed, may I say thank you so much for this wonderful new album called Bounce Back. But if I weren't holding it in my hands, where might I be able to get it?
I'm glad you asked, Kevin. You would go to Creed Bratton, bounceback.com, Kevin, if you were going to purchase it online.
I'll tell you what.
Now I'm going to give it back to you.
Even though I'm holding it? I'm going to go to creedbrattonbounceback.com and purchase another copy.
Please do.
You mentioned Grassroots a few times. That was your original band.
The segueing back again. Boom, 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 boom. Ken Kwapis was a big fan of the Grassroots, and so I signed some albums for him and stuff. We talked. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of rock and roll. There I am.
There you are.
There I am.
The Grassroots of you.
The Grassroots. Look at that little necktie thing.
I know.
Wow.
That's nice.
That's a little.
You can still rock that today.
That's a little iffy, I think. So he says, I hear he's going to do the pilot for The Office. And I had seen the Ricky Gervais thing, and I was just in love with the show, and I wanted more than anything to be on it. So I called him, and I said, "You promised me a favor, and I'm going to collect now." Something like that. One of those things.
Do something for me.
You do something for me now, Ken. And so he said, "I'll bring you in, and I will try to work you into the mix." Correct? So I come on the show, and I'm in the background. A couple of days there, I see John and Jenna and Rain and Oscar and these talented people, right. And I'm going, "Wow, this is going to be rough."
I can't wait to put these people in my shadow, is what you thought, right?
Yes,
I can't wait to tower over them.
I want to just walk on their ashes, basically. Yeah. So I go and I write this monologue, and then I about an addled rock and roll star who continues doing drugs and drinking and stuff like that, which I don't. But I'm not giving away the Creed cred now. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
No, I don't want to do this. I'm sorry.
Okay,
we shoot. I shoot the whole thing and I give it to Greg Daniels. A few days later, the line producer Kent comes in and said, "Well, everyone thinks you're very funny." So next thing I know, they hand me this 6.5-page scene with Steve Carell on Halloween, and here we are.
And there you are.
There we are.
I love it. We ran out of time. You got to come back and perform a song from this, really, because I did enjoy it. It's amazing stuff, and the video's on the site. They have to check it out because it looks like musicians having a damn good time making music, which is what it should be.
We're acting though. We're fake. We don't really have.
Oh well, good. As long as you're miserable behind the scenes. Creed Bratton, everybody. Creed, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for the album. Terry opens in theaters on July 1st. And you got to come back and do a song for us.
Okay.
All right. Coming up, more Attack right after this. Sorry.
I had a fuzzy fly.
That's why they outlawed Everclear.
Coming up tomorrow on an all-new Attack of the Show. Weird Al swings by the studio live with his brand new album, Alpocalypse. Then Chris Gore is back from Russia and he brought discs. He'll rate the Lord of the Rings extended editions on Blu-ray and Sucker Punch on DVD Tuesday. And Allison Hayslip takes us on a behind-the-scenes tour of the hit NBC show The Voice. Find out why Carson Daly wears shorts to work. See it tomorrow.
You know, while we were here doing the whole TV show thing, people were tweeting.
They were?
And some of them are over there on that wall. I'm not kidding.
I thought there was just a blackout when the show happened.
That's what happened. Well, they do black out during the show, but they did manage to tweet before blacking out.
Right.
Pandemoniums. Aha.
Yeah, it's cute. I like it.
Says, I want to play the urinal game made by Sega.
I just feel like they're not going to have these for women, and I think that is misogynist. I think that is anti-women. Haven't we had enough of the glass ceiling? Right, Kevin? Right?
I didn't know you urinated on the glass ceiling. Maybe that's... I had no idea what that was for.
I don't think we're going to be seeing this one for women.
But I'm all right with that. You should just barge into the men's room as a protest. We will send you to Japan. Attack will send you to Japan. You go to the men's room, go for the high score. Morgan Webb, you believe in me.
Would it even be possible for a woman to get the high score?
I don't know. We're going to find out. And we're going to waste a flip cam in the process, I'm sure.
Just bring a hose.
Thanks to Creed Bratton, Adam Sessler, special guest host Morgan Webb.